Chapter 1171. He was about to ask what the association was, but from the corner of his eye, he saw Tang Qianling getting closer and closer. He couldn't be bothered to care so much. He secretly gave the boy a look, then suddenly knocked him on the head and shouted furiously, "What did you say? You actually want to sell such a lousy guide for 60 spiritual jades? Do you really think this young master is a fool?" The boy was stunned for a moment, then immediately realized that Xiao Chen was acting. He immediately covered his head and said in a loud voice, "Feeling wronged, honorable cultivator, if you have something to say, we can talk it out. We are doing business, why are you beating people up? Cut the crap. This young master beating you up is already considered going easy on you. Don't you know that I am from the Jia family of the inner martial arts world? Hurry up and give this young master a discount, or I will burn all your lousy guides." Xiao Chen glared and roared fiercely. Just as Xiao Chen had expected, the quarrel between the two attracted Tang Qianling's attention. He looked at Xiao Chen from afar, then looked at the boy. Although he didn't know what had happened, he still walked over with great interest. "Oh, I say, Xiao Chen, I didn't know that you could put on airs. You obviously have the surname Xiao, but you insist that you are from the Jia family. When did you change your surname? Don't tell me you married into the Jia family and became a concubine of Jia Muzhen? Ha ha ha." Tang Qianling sneered as soon as he came up. Xiao Chen glanced at Tang Qianling and found that the black mist on his body was thicker than before. It was obvious that after cultivating, his power had greatly increased. Cheng Menjing also lightly breathed. She must have also noticed that something was wrong, but she cleverly maintained her silence. Other than the two of them, no one else noticed it. "Tang Qianling, you just ate shit, right?" Xiao Chen dragged out his words unhurriedly. Then, he smacked his forehead and said with sudden realization, "Oh, I understand. It turns out that the first condition to cultivate the 5 poisons secret manual is to first eat some shit, to fight poison with poison. I was wondering why your mouth was full of feces. Looks like you ate quite a lot." SSSS. Before the pitiful Xiao Chen could finish his words, he felt the flesh on his waist being ruthlessly pinched. Xiao Chen didn't even need to look to know that it was definitely Tian Suruan's doing. After all, she also cultivated the 5 poisons secret manual. If he used this to tease Tang Qianling, wouldn't it be the same as teasing Tian Suruan? Looking at Tang, she looked indifferent. She didn't care about these things at all. Anyway, she knew that Xiao Chen said that on purpose, so she just shrugged and looked at Tang Qianling with a strange expression. "You." Tang Qianling was infuriated by Xiao Chen's mockery. Originally, he wanted to immediately use the 5 poisons secret manual he had just learned to teach Xiao Chen a lesson. However, he did not want to reveal his strength too early, so he could only turn his head and say to the little boy beside him, "Brat, did this guy bully you just now? Just say it. I'm the young master of the Tang family. There's nothing in the martial arts world that I can't handle." The little boy looked at Tang Qianling with a pitiful look, and tears kept rolling down his cheeks. He said in a weak voice, Young Master Tang, you came just in time. This guy saw that I'm young and weak, so he wanted to force me to buy the Venerable Secret Realm guidebook, but he didn't want to spend the spiritual jades. He just wanted me to give him a discount. I didn't agree, so he beat me up. You have to be my judge." "Venerable Secret Realm guidebook? What's that?" Tang Qianling was stunned for a moment, and asked in confusion. It was also the first time he came to the Venerable Secret Realm, so he didn't know much about the situation here. "Surname's Tang, what does it have to do with you that I want to buy the guidebook? Get out of here if you have nothing to do with it. The further the better." Before the little boy could answer, Xiao Chen immediately frowned and waved his hand, pushing Tang Qianling a few steps away. Before Tang Qianling could lose his temper, Xiao Chen turned around and sneered at the little boy, "Brat, do you really think that the Tang family can support you? Let me tell you the truth, Tang Qianling is also a pauper. The spiritual jades in his pocket were all given to him by the Jia family. How dare he think that he can afford the ancient Venerable Secret Realm guidebook, which costs 60 spiritual jades? Dream on. What the F asterisk CK, who the F asterisk CK are you calling a pauper? It's just 60 spiritual jades, do you really think that I don't have any? Tang Qianling, who was labeled as a pauper, was furious. He waved his hand and ordered Tang Qinchi, hurry up, take out all the spiritual jades you have, and let this country bumpkin Shao Chen have a good look. Does he really think that he can do whatever he wants just because he's allied with the Jia family? All right. Tang Qinchi immediately took out a cloth bag and poured out dozens of high-grade spiritual jades. He waved them in front of the little boy and said with a faint smile, "Little boy, look carefully, these are the best spiritual jades. There are more in this cloth bag, enough to buy the Venerable Secret Realm guidebook." The little boy's eyes lit up. He immediately took out the ancient Venerable Secret Realm guidebook and presented it to Tang Qianling with both hands. He then said excitedly, "Wow! So many spiritual jades. Tycoon Tang, please ride on my coattails." That's more like it. I've already ridden on your coattails, but I can consider riding on your coattails. Tang Qian glanced at Shao Chen in a threatening manner before receiving the Martial Venerable Secret Realm guidebook in a pleased manner. However, before he could flip through a few pages, Shao Chen reached out and snatched it away. "Wait." Shao Chen held the guidebook tightly in his hand and said disdainfully, "This is the only ancient Venerable Secret Realm guidebook left, and you want to buy it for 60 spiritual jades? Don't be silly, okay? Little boy, I'll pay 70 spiritual jades for this guidebook." Tang Qianling's expression changed. After reading a few pages of the guidebook, he didn't think it was worth as much as 60 spiritual jades. However, Shao Chen's action of snatching the guidebook made him feel a little strange. In Tang Qianling's opinion, Shao Chen was definitely not a fool. On the contrary, he was very smart. He must have discovered some secrets in the guidebook, which was why he tried to snatch it away and even paid a high price for it. "Little boy, is this really the only ancient Venerable Secret Realm guidebook left?" Tang Qianling asked the little boy. "Yes, this is the only one in my bag." The little boy rolled his eyes and nodded immediately. He then said with an honest face, "Hero Shao didn't want it at first, but after reading it once, he decided to buy it. However, he thought it was too expensive and asked me to give him a discount." What happened next? Tycoon Tang, you know. Chapter 1172. The little boy was not lying about this. He had many different versions of the guidebook at home. However, the ancient version was too expensive and did not sell well. Every time he went out to sell it, he would only bring one copy. Therefore, he only had one copy left in his bag. Isn't it just 70 spiritual jades? I'll pay 80. Kid, go get that guidebook. I'll buy it. Tang Qianling thought for a moment and said resolutely. His eyes were still fixed on the guidebook in Shao Chen's hand. Tang Qianling concluded that there must be a secret in this guidebook. He must snatch it from Shao Chen's hands no matter what. However, he did not dare to take it himself. The shadow of being beaten up by Shao Chen was still fresh in his mind. He was afraid of being beaten up again. Therefore, he could only order the little boy to go. Anyway, he was protected by the Honor Mystic Realm Union Association. Shao Chen would not dare to do anything to him. If he were to hit Shao Chen, he would have to pay for it. "Che, I'll pay 90. I don't believe that you, Tang Qianling, have more spiritual jades than I do," Shao Chen said with a look of disdain. "I'll pay 150. Tang Qianling roared. "I'll pay 200 spiritual jades. I'll pay 250. I'll pay." Shao Chen was about to raise the price. However, Jia Muzhen pulled his clothes and said in a low voice, "Shao Chen, I don't have that many spiritual jades. Don't raise the price anymore. It's enough." This. Shao Chen looked hesitant. He held the guidebook tightly in his hand and did not want to let go. "I say, Shao Chen, don't play dumb if you don't have spiritual jades. Do you really think that you are a rich man because you are from the Jia family? Do you think that you own the heavenly jade mine? Tang Qianling immediately sneered. Humph, forget it. Since this idiot wants the guidebook, I won't fight with him for it. It's not something particularly important anyway. Xiao Chen pretended to be carefree and shrugged, but a trace of helplessness flashed across his expression. He even flipped open the guidebook in his hand and pretended to be reluctant to part with it, as if he was trying to memorize the contents inside. What the hell are you looking at? You poor bastard, did this young master allow you to look? Seeing this, Tang Qianling became anxious. He hurriedly strode forward and snatched the guidebook. He carefully put it away and then waved his hand at Tang Qinchi, indicating for him to give the 250 spirit jades to the little boy. Young Master Ling, are we really going to give all the spiritual jades to this brat? Tang Qinchi clutched the bag of spiritual jades with a pained expression on his face. They had only brought 500 spiritual jades with them this time. Who would have thought that they would have to spend half of it just to buy a booklet before entering the mystery territory? Oh, what's up? Tang Qianling, are you planning not to pay after buying something? Could it be that you didn't bring that many spiritual jades with you, and you want to dine and dash? Don't buy it if you don't have the money. I'm still waiting here. Xiao Chen retorted sarcastically. Tang Qianling glared at Tang Qinchi and said impatiently, why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and pay the spiritual jades. What are you dilly-dallying for? Are you happy to be scolded for nothing? Tang Qinchi had a bitter expression on his face. Although he was extremely unhappy and doubted the authenticity of the guidebook, he still counted 250 spiritual jades and handed them to the little boy. Wow! Thank you, boss. The little boy received the large pile of spiritual jades and held them in his arms happily. He lowered his head and counted them impatiently. Ha ha ha, Xiao Chen, I'm taking this treasure. We'll never meet again. Tang Qianling held the guidebook tightly in his arms and looked at Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen triumphantly. Then, he swaggered away with Tang Qinchi. Idiot. You really treat the guidebook like a treasure. Let's see how you die. Xiao Chen did not care about Tang Qianling's gaze before he left. He looked at Tang Qianling's disappearing figure and curled his lips disdainfully. He turned to the little boy and said, how was it? You've earned quite a lot today. Shouldn't you give me my reward? Huh? The little boy was still immersed in his own world. He was grinning from ear to ear as he counted the spiritual jades repeatedly. He had really earned a lot today. Just this transaction alone was enough for him to live on for many days. Hey, my husband is talking to you. You little rascal, why are you even more of a money grubber than Sister Sour Sour? Tian Sour Sour said unhappily. Oh, right. I still owe you a guidebook. Hearing Tian Sour Sour's complaint, the little boy stopped as if he had just woken up from a dream. He casually took his backpack and placed it in front of Xiao Chen. He said cheerfully, Cultivator Hero, take whatever you want. You can take as many as you want. Oh, I only need a hardcover guidebook. I don't need anything else. Xiao Chen bent down to pick up a hardcover guidebook. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked curiously, oh right, what's that alliance association you mentioned just now? It sounds awesome. What does it have to do with the Venerable Secret Realm Alliance? It's related. The little boy nodded and explained logically, the Alliance Association is a unit directly under the Venerable Secret Realm Alliance. It is also an organization formed by the large families and sects in the martial arts world. The Alliance is mainly responsible for a series of tasks when the families and sects enter the secret realm. The association is responsible for the order of the docks and the overall arrangement of the merchants here. So complicated? They have to divide this into two. Xiao Chen frowned and muttered, I think it's to make more money. Shoo. Don't talk nonsense. The little boy immediately became nervous. He looked around and made a shushing gesture, the Alliance Association is fine. The cultivation of us merchants is generally not high, so we are easily bullied by cultivators. There are many masters in the Alliance Association. In order to prevent this kind of situation, we are willing to pay. Are you serious? There are really people who cause trouble at this docks? Xiao Chen was a little surprised, but then he thought of the little boy's vigilant look just now. He must have experienced this kind of experience before. Yes, I've encountered it before. Fortunately, after the association, this situation is much better. The little boy spoke methodically like an adult. After he finished speaking, he even stood on his tiptoes and patted Xiao Chen's shoulder. He said in a mature tone, "But don't worry, as long as you don't mess around, they won't take the initiative to cause trouble for you." Pfft. Xiao Chen was amused again. However, seeing that this little boy came out to do business at such a young age, he must have been forced by life. Xiao Chen rubbed his hair and nodded with a smile. "All right, thank you for telling me. I understand. I'll take this guidebook with me, for free." Chapter 1173. After bidding farewell to the little boy, Xiao Chen handed the guidebook to Jia Muzin and told him to put it away. He looked up and saw that it was getting late, so he prepared to bring the group to find a place to eat. After walking for about 10 minutes, Xiao Chen and the group finally found a restaurant. The business here seemed to be quite good. Many cultivators were waiting in line at the entrance with their number tags. However, everyone was quite well behaved and there was no act of cutting the line. Xiao Chen and the girls discussed for a while and felt that there shouldn't be any good restaurants nearby, so they might as well choose this place for dinner. After discussing, Xiao Chen also went to the counter to get a number tag. However, this number was already at the back of the line, and there were still many people waiting in front of it. Xiao Chen had no choice but to wait. Since this restaurant's business was so good, the food should be quite delicious. In the same restaurant, Yu Dongxing was eating at a table near the corner. He raised his head and saw Xiao Chen getting a number tag at the counter. He turned to Tang Qianling and asked, "Qianling, those two people look quite familiar. Are they Xiao Chen and Jia Muzin?" "No way, what a coincidence." Tang Qianling turned his head in surprise and found that it was indeed Xiao Chen and Jia Muzin. At this time, they were standing outside and chatting casually. There were also a few beautiful girls standing beside them, attracting many envious gazes. Tang Qianling smacked his lips and sneered, "It really is them. This kid suffered a loss in my hands today. I didn't expect to meet him here again. TSK, and he has to wait in line for a long time. I think he's going crazy with anger." "Huh? What do you mean? Xiao Chen looks quite smart. How could he be fooled by you?" Yu Dongxing felt a little strange and asked with a smile. If Tang Qianling was a little smarter, he should be able to hear the derogatory meaning in his words. Yu Dongxing always felt that Tang Qianling's brain was not very good. Apart from being a little smart, he basically had no other good points. However, Tang Qianling obviously didn't hear it. Instead, he drank a cup of wine and said with a proud face, "Hee, I snatched a venerable secret realm guidebook from him. No, to be precise, I bought one. He originally wanted to fight with me for it, but Jia Muzin was too stupid and didn't bring enough spirit jades. In the end, I easily took the guidebook." "What? The venerable secret realm guidebook? You didn't buy it on the street nearby, did you? Is the one selling the guidebook a little boy?" Yu Dongxing frowned and asked immediately. He already felt that something was wrong. Xiao Chen didn't look stupid. Instead, he was much smarter than Tang Qianling. How could he suffer such a loss in Tang Qianling's hands? There must be something behind this. Yes. How did you know?" Tang Qianling was oblivious to Yu Dongxing's doubts. He took out the guidebook and carefully placed it on the table. Yu Dongxing picked up the guidebook and flipped through it. There didn't seem to be anything special about it. "Be careful when you flip it," Tang Qianling warned and said with a toothpick in his mouth, "This is the only ancient version of the guidebook. It has detailed records of some of the more dangerous areas in the venerable secret realm. It even has a map. When we enter the venerable secret realm in a few days, this guidebook will definitely come in handy." That fool Xiao Chen didn't have enough spirit jades and still tried to snatch it from me. This. Qianling, you've been cheated. This guidebook is useless. You. How many spirit jades did you spend on it? Yu Dongxing put down the guidebook and shook his head helplessly. It was just as he had expected. This Tang Qianling was really a stupid pig. That's impossible, right? Tang Qianling was stunned. He shook his head in disbelief and said, I spent 250 spirit jades to buy it. Tang Qianling picked up the guidebook and flipped it open again. Both the handwriting and the map were extremely clear. It didn't look fake at all. What? You spent 250 spirit jades to buy this lousy thing? Yu Dongxing was shocked. He looked at Tang Qianling as if he was looking at an idiot and said, in the past, our Yu clan's elder also bought this kind of guidebook. However, he only spent 50 spirit jades. Isn't it just 200 spirit jades more expensive? I don't lack that amount of money. As long as the quality of the item is good, it's fine. Tang Qianling's heart skipped a beat. However, he still pretended to be generous and waved his hand. However, after our elder bought it and flipped through it, he realized that other than the map, the other notes were completely useless. The key is to rely on one's own strength. Yu Dongxing sighed. He really couldn't bear to expose Tang Qianling's daydream. How can that be? At that time, Xiao Chen really wanted to snatch it from me. He even compared the price with me. However, Jia Muzhen didn't have enough spirit jades on him. That's why I bought it first. If this thing is useless, then there's no need for him to waste my time. Tang Qianling still didn't believe Yu Dongxing and argued. Yu Dongxing cursed Tang Qianling in his heart for being an idiot. However, he said, Xiao Chen must have colluded with the guidebook seller to trick you. This thing is really not worth that price. Damn. That bastard Xiao Chen, I'll teach him a lesson later. Tang Qianling was finally convinced. He angrily slammed the table and grabbed the Honorable Realm guidebook, wanting to tear it apart. Wait. This guidebook. Yu Dongxing quickly grabbed Tang Qianling's hand and looked at him hesitantly. Tang Qianling then realized that the guidebook's map could still be used. Tang Qianling angrily put down his hand. He felt that he had lost face, so he fiercely said, that brat is really too much. He even dared to deceive this young master. Tomorrow, I'll smash his stall and teach him a lesson. Qianling, let's forget about this matter. You know how strong Xiao Chen is. Before you become an honorable, you'd better not fight with him directly. Yu Dongxing shook his head and continued to warn him, as for that little rascal who sold the guidebook, don't even think about touching him. After all, you were willing to spend spirit jades to buy the guidebook. If this matter were to be reported to the Alliance, let alone you, even your Tang family might not be able to handle it. Actually, Yu Dongxing didn't like Tang Qianling very much. He also didn't care where he went to cause trouble. However, this little rascal had some value. Moreover, the Yu family and the Tang family had a good relationship. Now that Jia Huiyan had disappeared, Yu Dongxing could only choose to accept a stupid friend like Tang Qianling. Chapter 1174. Tang Qianling was so angry that his head hurt. However, he knew that Yu Dongxing was right. Currently, he could not do anything to Xiao Chen. With nowhere to vent his anger, he could only grit his teeth and glare at Xiao Chen, hoping to kill him with his stare. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen was talking to a few pretty girls and did not even look at him. Tang Qianling wasted half a day's effort. Is number 12 here? There's an empty table now. You can go in and eat. On the other side, a table of people had already finished eating. After clearing up the empty plates on the table, the waitress ran to the people in the queue and shouted. Yes, we are number 12. Tian Souring jumped 3 feet high and raised her hand excitedly. Please give me your number plate. This way. The waitress took the number plate from Xiao Chen's hand and pointed in the direction of the empty table. Tian Souring took the lead and quickly ran to the empty table. As she ran, she rubbed her stomach and said, I've been waiting for so long. Sister Souring's stomach is almost flat from hunger. Hurry up and bring the best dishes in your restaurant. Before Tian Souring could finish, 3 young men suddenly rushed over from behind her. Not only did they knock her to the ground, but they also occupied the only empty table. Waitress! Hurry up and bring the best wine and dishes. We still have business to attend to after our meal. One of the men with a black dragon tattoo on his arm waved his hand casually. Seeing that the waitress was still in a daze, he frowned and shouted, Didn't you hear what I said? Hurry up and get the chef to cook. Why are you still in a daze? The waitress was a little displeased with the tattooed man's behavior. However, she still said politely, I'm sorry, this table belongs to the customers over there. If you want to eat, please take a number at the door and line up. Xiao Chen walked over and helped Tian Souring up first. Just as he was about to go over and teach those people a lesson, he saw a young man with one eye covered by a black cloth slamming the table and shouting, Give AF** king name. Since there was no one sitting at this table, it naturally belonged to whoever came first. You're just a waiter, someone who serves food and runs errands. Why are you pretending? That's right. What kind of service quality do you have? Hurry up and serve the dishes. The tattooed man glared at him and pointed at the young man with a mohawk. We are treating Brother Shi today. Don't save money for us. Bring us the most expensive dishes. Prawns that cost 38 renminbi each, crabs that cost 200 renminbi each, get them all. You. The waitress was trembling with anger, but before she could speak, Xiao Chen stepped forward and sneered, Brother Shit, right? Didn't your mother teach you to be civilized and polite? Not only did you steal my seat for no reason, but you also knocked down my girlfriend. You didn't even apologize. I think you might as well skip the meal and go home to eat sh*t. Motherf***, are you looking for death? Xiao Chen. The person who was addressed as Brother Shi with his back facing Xiao Chen was instantly enraged. He turned around and was about to flip out when he suddenly realized that the person standing in front of him was actually Xiao Chen. He immediately had a look of surprise on his face as he said, You. Why are you here? Aren't you a rogue cultivator from the secular world? How can you participate in the Venerable's secret realm? Are you a follower of the Jia family? Did you even sneak into the Venerable's secret realm? Shi Yuchuan, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Chen stared coldly at Shi Yuchuan in front of him. He enunciated each word clearly, I'll give you a chance now. First, apologize to my wife, Tian Souring. Then, pay her 500 spiritual jades for her medical fees. Otherwise, don't even think of leaving this place alive. Although Xiao Chen didn't show it on his face, he was a little surprised. When Shi Yuchuan knocked down Tian Souring, Xiao Chen had already recognized him. He just didn't have the time to say it. Damn, where did this brat come from? You're courting death. The tattooed man suddenly stood up. He activated his mental cultivation and displayed the strength of a level 3 demon king. He swung his fist and punched at Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen raised the corner of his mouth and was about to fight back. However, before he could do anything, Tian Souring, who was standing next to him, suddenly stepped forward and kicked the tattooed man's chest. The man was kicked out of the restaurant and smashed into the stone wall on the opposite side. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Yeah. Xiao Chen's husband, isn't Sister Souring powerful? She kicked the big man with the electric eel tattoo away. Wasn't the posture just now very cool? Tian Souring was so excited that she danced with joy. She pulled Xiao Chen and asked repeatedly. Electric eel? Why do I feel that he tattooed a dragon? Forget it, who cares? Xiao Chen scratched his chin and said to Shi Yuchuan, how about it? After seeing how powerful my wife is, do you have anything else to say? If not, apologize quickly and compensate with spiritual jades. Don't waste my time. We're still waiting to eat. Humph. You're just a tomboy who only knows how to use brute force. You, Xiao Qin, other than living off a woman and hugging her family's thigh, what else can you do? Shi Yuchuan thought that Tian Souring was just a little stronger. He snorted and looked at Xiao Qin mockingly. Looks like you're not going to apologize. Xiao Chen's face darkened slightly. His tone was a little impatient. Apologize? Stop joking. Shi Yuchuan laughed and immediately displayed the strength of a half-step martial supremacy. He said proudly, Xiao Qin, do you think I'm still the Shi Yuchuan who pretended to have a stomachache and slipped away at the Jia family? Since I'm able to participate in the supremacy's secret realm, I naturally have full confidence. Before Shi Yuchuan finished speaking, Tian Souring pretended to be surprised. She covered her mouth and said exaggeratedly, wow, Xiao Chen's husband, this person looks so powerful. I'm a little scared. Haha. Xiao Chen, look, your wife has better eyesight. Shi Yuchuan was very pleased and laughed wildly. He raised his eyebrows at Tian Souring and said, little girl, don't follow that useless Xiao Chen anymore. Come and follow me. I guarantee that I can make you want to die every day. I'm definitely more powerful than Xiao Chen. Thinking back to when Ling had her virginity taken by Xiao Chen, Shi Yuchuan still resented her to this day. Now that he saw that Tian Souring's looks were not bad, and her every move was very flirtatious, he felt that his lower abdomen was already starting to stir. Previously, when Shi Yuchuan went to the Jia family to participate in the clan's competition, his strength was only at the first level of a martial king. When he thought of how he suffered when he followed Xiao Qin, he was so scared that he ran away and did not even dare to participate in the competition. However, after returning, Shi Yuchuan felt that something was wrong. He was not convinced. Why should he be afraid of Xiao Qin? Shi Yuchuan was no longer the weak chicken he used to be. He was an important person in the sect. Therefore, he had to find an opportunity to take revenge. Chapter 1175. Even though Shi Yuchuan was only the nephew of one of the elders in the Six Directions sect, that elder's status had risen ever since he had successfully brought back the forging materials. He now had a considerable say in the Six Directions sect. Everyone believed Shi Yuchuan's report and no one bothered to verify its authenticity. Later on, by chance, the sect leader of the Six Directions sect had obtained a high-rank pill that could rapidly increase the power of a martial king. At that time, the martial king disciples of the sect had fought fiercely over it. Shi Yuchuan had used his strong background and his ability to curry favor with the sect leader. He had also secretly framed the other disciples and finally managed to obtain the right to use the pill as he wished. That was why Shi Yuchuan was able to break through to the martial king realm at the martial king realm in such a short period of time. With the help of other abundant cultivation resources, he had even reached the martial king realm. When the sect leader of the Six Directions sect saw that Shi Yuchuan had such a talent for cultivation and that he was quite fond of him, he had allocated a place for Shi Yuchuan to explore the martial honor realm in the hopes that he would be able to improve his strength as soon as possible so that he could contribute more to his sect in the future. This time, he had coincidentally bumped into Xiao Qin once again. How could he not be excited? How could he not be excited? He finally had a chance to avenge his past humiliation. Shi Yuchuan. Don't get too carried away. Have you forgotten about how you were burned by Xiao Qin? Don't forget the pain once the scars have healed. Ling finally could not stand it any longer. She stepped out from behind Xiao Qin and scolded him in a sweet voice. She was not afraid that Xiao Qin would injure Shi Yuchuan. Instead, she was worried that if the matter were to get out of hand, it would attract unnecessary trouble. Therefore, she had stepped out to remind Shi Yuchuan to behave himself and not provoke the wrong people. Otherwise, he might lose his life. Linger. I didn't expect you to be here too. Shi Yuchuan finally saw Linger and was instantly stunned. When he saw the goddess whom he had once loved and adored standing in front of his enemy to protect Xiao Qin, he felt a faint sense of pain in his heart. With mixed feelings, Shi Yuchuan stared at Xiao Qin fiercely and said sarcastically, Xiao Qin, you're quite willing to spend your capital. You even brought a low-level cultivator like Ling Er into the venerable realm. It seems like she's been trying to please you in bed. Shi Yuchuan. You shut up. Xiao Chen is not as shameless as you. Compared to him, you are simply scum. No, you're not even scum. You're a beast that's worse than pigs and dogs. Ling Er was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She pointed at Shi Yuchuan and scolded. All right. Very good. You slut. Back then, you flirted with this young master. Now that you found someone else, you actually dare to point at my nose and scold me. Fine, none of you can leave today. All of you will die in my hands. Shi Yuchuan did not get angry. Instead, he laughed. He gathered the martial qi in his body into his palms and flew towards Ling Er. However, Shi Yuchuan had only taken 2 steps when he saw a giant fireball with a whistling sound. It emitted a scorching aura as it flew towards him. Shi Yuchuan's expression changed. Although he was still quite a distance away from the fireball, he could already feel the burning pain on his face. It was obvious that the person who released the fireball was not weaker than him. Could it be that Xiao Chen had also reached the venerable realm? How was that possible? Feeling helpless, Shi Yuchuan could only change his position and push the martial qi in his palms towards the giant fireball. Shi Yuchuan also knew that the fireball was very close to his body. If he did not extinguish this thing first, it was very likely that he would be hit by the fireball before he could even touch Ling Er. He might even be killed by the fireball. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Shi Yuchuan's martial qi and the giant fireball collided. He originally thought that he could easily dispel the aura of the giant fireball. However, he did not expect the reality to surprise him. Shi Yuchuan's martial qi seemed to have entered a bottomless pit. Not only did it not weaken the power of the giant fireball, but it also strengthened a lot. Shi Yuchuan was shocked. He took 2 steps back and realized that the fireball was still following him. He moved a few more steps and dodged left and right. The fireball seemed to have its own navigation system. It was still flying towards him, ignoring the people around it who were running away. This time, Shi Yuchuan was really at his wits' end. Although the speed of the fireball was not too fast, it was still approaching him. Shi Yuchuan, who had no other choice, could only reach out and gather his martial qi. He wanted to use all his strength to resist it. What? This? How is this possible? Ah! It's burning me. When the fireball came into contact with Shi Yuchuan's palms, the raging flames directly vaporized his fingers, revealing the eerie white bones inside. Seeing that Shi Yuchuan's arms were gradually engulfed by the giant fireball and listening to his heart-wrenching screams, Jia Muzin's face was a little solemn. He took 2 steps forward and whispered to Xiao Chen, that's enough. Don't kill him. This place is not like the Jia family. If something really happens, it will be difficult for us to escape. Oh, it's just burning his hands. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Xiao Chen nodded with his arms crossed. He was still watching the scene leisurely. Xiao Chen had never thought of killing Shi Yuchuan. Otherwise, he would not have tortured him like this. Wouldn't it be more efficient to just kill him with a slap? If it weren't for Shi Yuchuan's cheap mouth, Xiao Chen would have already thrown him out of the restaurant and sat down to eat by himself. The one-eyed young man who came with Shi Yuchuan was dumbfounded. He was also shocked. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so powerful. He didn't even know how this guy made his move. He seemed to have just casually waved his hand and threw out a big fireball. This guy. What kind of strength does he have? On second thought, the one-eyed man felt that if he continued to stay here, his ending would definitely not be any better than the tattooed man and Shi Yuchuan. Seeing that everyone's attention was focused on Shi Yuchuan, he took the opportunity to sneak away. Yu Dongsheng, who was sitting in the corner, couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat when he saw the situation. Tang Qianling was even more relieved. Fortunately, he didn't impulsively confront Xiao Chen. Otherwise, the person whose arms were burned would most likely be him. After a while, Ling pulled on Xiao Chen's sleeve and said softly, "Xiao Chen, that Shi Yuchuan seems to be about to be burned to death. He has already received the lesson he deserves. Why don't we let him live?" After a while, Ling pulled on Xiao Chen's sleeve and said softly, "After all, the Yimin sect and the Six Directions sect had some friendly relations. Although Shi Yuchuan's mouth was cheap, Ling couldn't just watch him die. Otherwise, she would definitely be punished by her master when she returned. All right, since Ling-er's wife has spoken, then let's forget about it." Xiao Chen didn't insist. He smiled and casually condensed a water ball technique. He raised his hand and threw it at Shi Yuchuan. Chapter 1176. With a splash, Shi Yuchuan's whole body was drenched, and the originally burning flame was extinguished. Shi Yuchuan, who had been screaming at the top of his lungs, immediately shut his mouth. He lowered his head to look at his own charred body and his two arms that had been burnt out of shape. With a cry, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. He fell to the ground with a thud, and there was no sound. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Just as Tian Wangchuan was about to say a few words, he suddenly saw Xiao Chen's figure flash and disappear from the hall of the restaurant. Where did Xiao Chen's husband go? Could it be that he had an emergency and went to the toilet? Tian Wangchuan blinked his eyes and asked doubtfully. Just when everyone was a little puzzled, Xiao Chen quickly returned, carrying the escaped one-eyed man in his hand. He stood in front of Shi Yuchuan and said faintly, "Go and take your brother's shit away. We still need to eat. Putting a pile of shit here really spoils our appetite." Ouch. Before the one-eyed man could figure out what was going on, he was thrown to the side of Shi Yuchuan by Xiao Chen. The one-eyed man, who was dizzy from the fall, shook his head. As soon as he turned his head, he saw that Shi Yuchuan was burnt black and couldn't be seen, but he seemed to be breathing. The one-eyed man was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He quickly took out a medicinal pill from his pocket and stuffed it into Shi Yuchuan's mouth. At the same time, he didn't forget to reply to Xiao Chen, "Yes, I'll take him away immediately. I won't dare to disturb the great hero's meal. Phew. I can finally eat." Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered with the one-eyed man anymore. He turned around and greeted the waitress who was hiding far away. He said with a smile, "Can I trouble you to bring the menu over for me to take a look? Also, clean the floor while you're at it." The restaurant was quiet, and the other cultivators who were eating were a little dumbfounded. They all avoided Xiao Chen, the bully. The further the better. Some cultivators were so scared that they didn't even have the mood to eat. They paid the bill and prepared to leave. Who dares to cause trouble at the pier? Just as the cultivators were about to leave after paying the bill, a group of people suddenly barged in and blocked their way. The leader of the group stood up and looked around before shouting. Xiao Chen turned around and glanced at the newcomers. He realized that they were all dressed in neat uniforms. There was a special symbol on their arms and chests that looked like a badge. They seemed to be from the Alliance Association. Most importantly, the group of people gave off an aura that was as thick as a mountain. Every single one of them was at least a 5th-layer martial honor, and they didn't try to hide it at all. The leader of the group was an expert at the peak of 5th-layer martial honor. Jia Muzin narrowed his eyes when he saw the unfriendly expressions on the people's faces. When he saw the symbol on their uniforms, he was shocked. He didn't expect that he would still alarm the guards of the Union Association. Moreover, there were so many venerable realm experts. Jia Muzin shook his head regretfully. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have come here to eat. Who would have thought that they would encounter such bad luck? The team leader looked down at Shi Yuchuan's charred body, and then looked at the unconscious tattooed man lying on the ground outside the door. His expression became serious, and he waved his hand. The team members behind him immediately stopped the cultivators who were preparing to leave. The leader glanced at them, then at the one-eyed man who was supporting Shi Yuchuan. He said in a deep voice, "Stop right there. What is going on? Who injured these two people? Reporting, leader, it was that kid who did it. One-Eyed was overjoyed. He carefully put Shi Yuchuan down, then pointed at Xiao Chen and Tian Sour and complained, "We were just having a nice meal here, but we didn't expect that brat to rush up and beat us up without saying anything." "Oh, right. And that girl, she was the one who kicked the tattooed man out. Go, arrest both of them." The leader of the group waved his hand with a gloomy face. The team members behind him pounced forward like wolves and tigers, surrounding Xiao Chen and Tian Sourly. They were in a fighting stance, ready to take action at any time. "Wait." Xiao Chen suddenly stood up and shielded Tian Sourly behind him. He said calmly, "Just now, everyone was waiting in line for their number to be called. We could only go in to eat when our number was called. It was originally our turn, but the one-eyed man and his accomplice snatched our table for no reason and even knocked my wife to the ground. I was kind enough to reason with them, but I didn't expect them to ignore me. Instead, they hit my wife. I had no choice but to fight back. There's no proof. Who can testify for you?" The leader of the group looked at Xiao Chen from head to toe and asked with a wave of his hand. Clearly, he did not believe what Xiao Chen had said. The situation at the scene was obvious. Everyone on Xiao Chen's side was safe and sound, sitting there waiting for their meal. Shi Yuchuan was covered in soot and his breathing was weak. There was also another person lying outside. No matter how one looked at it, it was Xiao Chen who was bullying them. It was normal for the leader to not believe his words. "I can prove that it was the guy on the ground who made the first move." A crisp voice rang out. The waitress from before walked over and pointed at Xiao Chen and the others. These guests received their number plates and could have come in to eat. But not only did the one-eyed man and his accomplice snatch their table, they even insulted me. "You one-eyed dog. After all this, it turns out that you were the one who started it first. How dare you frame others?" The leader was so angry that his face turned purple. He stomped to the one-eyed man, raised his hand and slapped the one-eyed man on the head. The one-eyed man was slapped and spun in a circle. He could not help but see stars. He felt dizzy in his head and swayed for a long time before he stood firm. Looking at the angry leader in front of him, the one-eyed man realized the seriousness of the problem. He immediately put on a sad face and pointed at Shi Yuchuan, who was burnt on the ground. He stammered, "Captain. Captain, I'm wronged. It was Shi Yuchuan who instigated me to do it." "That's not." "Wait, what did you say just now?" The leader's eyelids suddenly twitched and his words were stuck in his throat. He looked down at the young man on the ground who was burnt and dirty. It was difficult to distinguish him. He tentatively asked, "You said this guy's name is Shi Yuchuan? Are you sure you didn't mistake him for someone else?" "Yes. This is Shi Yuchuan. We did have dinner with him, but now he has been burnt black by that hero's fireball. How would I dare to lie to you?" Although he did not know why the leader asked this, the one-eyed man nodded honestly. Chapter 1177. The leader took a deep breath and felt his scalp tingle. He looked down at the guy whose face couldn't be seen clearly and lamented in his heart, "How can this person be Shi Yuchuan? How can I explain this to him? Xiao Chen, why do I feel that something is not quite right? Why don't we stop eating and go back to the inn first?" Seeing the leader's expression suddenly become dignified, Jia Muzhen vaguely felt a little bad in his heart. It seemed that something big was going to happen. Xiao Chen frowned. Before he could reply, a ringtone suddenly rang. Everyone was startled. Then, a mobile phone slipped out of Shi Yuchuan's pocket. Obviously, someone had called him. The one-eyed man looked down and saw the shining mobile phone. He was about to bend down to pick it up, but the leader was one step ahead of him. He quickly picked up Shi Yuchuan's mobile phone. After looking at the caller ID, his face suddenly changed. He whispered a few words to his men, then pressed the answer button and walked out of the restaurant. The guards who had surrounded the one-eyed man with the leader received the order. After looking at each other, all the team members slowly dispersed. Some of them blocked the door, and the others gradually moved closer to the position where Xiao Chen and others stood. It's too late. It seems that the leader and Shi Yuchuan have an affair. Let's not act rashly. Xiao Chen shook his head slightly and whispered. He was not a fool. Naturally, he saw that his group had been surrounded by the guards. However, he did not intend to use force for the time being. He was going to observe the situation first and then make a plan. Tang Qianling and Yu Dongsheng, who were hiding in the corner, also looked at each other. They thought that the one-eyed man would definitely be caught and Shi Yuchuan would be dragged away. They estimated that the matter would be left unsettled. They didn't expect another wave to rise before the first wave subsided. The two put down the chopsticks in their hands at the same time and stared at Xiao Chen's group with great interest. They had an attitude of watching a good show. The one-eyed man also saw that the situation was a little wrong. His slightly bowed back gradually straightened, and the look of fear also receded from his face. Not long after, the leader came back, but behind him was an old man with an ashen face. The old man was holding Shi Yuchuan's phone in his hand. As soon as he stepped through the door, he saw Shi Yuchuan lying on the ground with a charred body. Yuchuan! The old man yelled and immediately rushed to Shi Yuchuan's side. He first checked his breath, then grabbed his wrist and began to concentrate on feeling his pulse and examining his injury. After a long time, the old man finally finished examining Shi Yuchuan's injuries. He shook his head helplessly, and his already ugly expression became even more sinister. The guard captain who was watching from the side was a little uneasy. From the looks of it, it seemed that he could not be cured. The old man slowly stood up. His body shook as he released a monstrous aura. He coldly glanced at everyone in the hall and said word by word, "Who was it that injured my nephew like this? Hurry up and come out, or this old man will make all of you die a horrible death." A 10th layer venerable realm perfected expert. Apart from Xiao Chen, everyone else in the hall felt a little suffocated. They could only silently endure the waves of pressure emitted by the old man, feeling extremely shocked. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, did not seem to care. He stood there leisurely with his arms crossed. Although the old man's aura was indeed very strong, it was not to the extent that it could make Xiao Chen feel afraid. At that moment, he was thinking about some unimportant questions. For example, if Shi Yuchuan was this old man's nephew, then where were his parents? Could it be that there was some kind of melodramatic plot behind this? Like the novel about Ouyang Feng and his nephew? Was he actually an illegitimate child? In fact, this old man was Elder Gu of the Six Directions faction, Shi Yuchuan's uncle. Recently, the faction leader had aged and was about to elect the next faction leader. Elder Gu had put in a lot of effort to help Shi Yuchuan obtain a recover pill and brought him to the honorable realm for a promotion. This was all so that he could have a useful person under his command and use this opportunity to strengthen his position in the Six Directions faction. This was to prepare himself for the fight for the position of faction leader in the future. In the end, he did not expect Shi Yuchuan to suddenly meet with an unforeseen event before he even entered the honorable realm. His arms had already lost their vitality. Even if he managed to heal them, he would become a cripple in the future. Old senior, you came at the right time. That guy was the one who injured Brother Shi. The one-eyed man quickly pointed at Xiao Chen as if he had seen his savior and complained angrily. The one-eyed man could also tell that the leader of the guards was probably a good friend of Elder Gu. Otherwise, he would not have brought him here, nor would he have stood by the side and let him handle this matter. One had to know that the management power of the guards of the Union Association was not to be underestimated. As long as they had a valid reason, they could even kill someone directly. Moreover, they would not have to be held accountable by their superiors after the matter was over. Other than the president of the Union Association, no one else had the right to investigate whether they had done anything wrong. The leader of such a powerful guard team had actually chosen to stand by and let the old man handle this matter himself. This old man must have an unfathomable background. Who are you? Elder Gu did not immediately believe the one-eyed man's words. Instead, he glanced at him and asked expressionlessly. The one-eyed man smiled and explained in fear and trepidation, I am Brother Sher's sworn brother. Today, we wanted to treat him to a drink, but who would have thought? Ouch! Before the one-eyed man could finish speaking, he felt someone kick his chest hard, as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. The ribs in his chest made a series of kacha-kacha sounds, and then his whole body was sent flying out of the door. He landed on the ground with a thud, spat out a mouthful of blood, and directly passed out. Trash. I've already warned Sher Yuchuan not to associate with trash like you, but this brat just wouldn't listen. Now, he is asking for trouble. Elder Gu spat in the direction of the one-eyed man and said disdainfully. Tang Qianling and Yu Dongsheng were dumbfounded. They had originally thought that Elder Gu would directly find trouble with Xiao Chen, but they did not expect him to beat up the one-eyed man first. What kind of trick was this? Jia Muzhen, Qing Menjing, and the other women also opened their mouths slightly, looking surprised. Why did this old man not follow the script? Elder Gu, what you did is not very in line with the rules. This dock is under the control of the Union Association. If you want to vent your anger, you can do it to the person who hurt your nephew. Why do you have to kill innocent people here? The leader of the guards could not help but frown when he saw this scene. Chapter 1178. Although Elder Gu and I are friends, isn't it a little too much to kill someone in front of everyone? This was completely looking down on him, not taking him seriously at all. I've already given you face. Otherwise, that one-eyed kid wouldn't be seriously injured but a cold corpse by now. Elder Gu raised his brows and narrowed his eyes at the leader. Leader Xiao, don't tell me you've forgotten how you got this position in the first place? Do you think you'd be where you are today if it wasn't for our sect supporting you? Ahem, as long as he's not dead. Leader Zhao's expression was a little ugly but he still coughed and said, I can understand how you're feeling right now, but I hope you'll hold back and don't make things too difficult for me. I don't need you to teach me these things. Elder Gu snorted softly and turned around. He saw that the others were cowering in fear from his aura. Only Xiao Chen remained standing, neither servile nor overbearing, and even dared to look him in the eye. Elder Gu was somewhat surprised. Elder Ge's eyes narrowed and his expression turned serious. He thought for a moment and said tentatively, Kid, I can't believe you didn't run away. I didn't know you had guts. I think I've seen you before. Alright, don't try to get close to me. I'm not your godfather and I don't have any red packets to give you. Xiao Chen shrugged and yawned. Kid, don't be too presumptuous. You might bite your tongue if you speak too loudly. Elder Gu sneered and looked at Xiao Chen suspiciously. Could it be that Xiao Chen was really that confident? Or does he not feel that I'm a perfected martial venerable? Xiao Chen stretched lazily, waved his hand and said, Sher Yuchuan, that trash, was beaten up by me. If you want to take revenge for him, then hurry up and come. I'm still starving here. However, let me remind you that I've already killed a few perfected martial venerable experts like you. Don't think that I'll go easy on you just because you're older. Ha ha ha. All right. Elder Gu was not angered by Xiao Chen. Instead, he threw his head back and laughed out loud. However, his laughter spread out with the help of the martial qi in his body. The sound waves caused everyone present to feel a stinging pain in their ears. After laughing for a while, Elder Gu abruptly stopped laughing. He stared intently at Xiao Chen and quickly drove the martial energy within his body. Flames burst out from his tightly clenched fists. As martial energy surged into his fists, the flames grew stronger as well. It was as though he was accumulating power. Yo, it's quite similar to mine. Xiao Chen looked at Elder Ge's flames with interest. Elder Gu ignored Xiao Chen's words. Instead, he said coldly, arrogant brat. Although I don't know if you're really stupid, or if you're hiding something, it doesn't matter anymore. Don't even think about leaving here alive today. Captain Xiao, let me confirm again. You're not going to interfere in this matter, right? Xiao Chen could not be bothered to waste his breath on Elder Gu. Instead, he turned to look at Captain Xiao and asked with an indifferent expression. Captain Zhao's expression was a bit complicated. He lowered his head and thought for a while. Then, he took a few steps back and nodded. Well, this is a personal grudge between you two. Although I'm the law enforcement captain of the Union Association and am in charge of the security of the dock, this matter is not within my scope of involvement. You can go ahead as long as you don't hurt the innocent. Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to say that. The corners of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up. He raised his hands and condensed a huge water ball technique in his palms. Xiao Chen decided to defend himself first. It would be very dangerous to attack rashly before he figured out Elder Ge's moves, so he did not intend to do so. Although Xiao Chen's current strength was enough to fight a venerable at the perfected stage, he did not dare to take it lightly. After all, he did not gain any advantage in his previous 2 fights with a venerable at the perfected stage. The first time was when he fought with Jia Jinyan. If not for Jia Jinyan's old injuries and his monstrous recovery speed, it would have been hard to say who would have won. The other time, he had relied on a successful sneak attack to catch Situ Qitian off guard and cause him to suffer some superficial injuries. It was Xiao Chen's first time officially fighting a venerable at the perfected stage. Although he was not flustered, he still wanted to accumulate some experience first. Kid, so your martial technique is of the water attribute. Elder Gu curled his lips and mocked, unfortunately, your strength is too weak. You're only at the peak of a second-stage venerable. Even if your attribute restrains me, it's basically negligible. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Ge's body trembled. His arms suddenly split into 2, then into 4. Finally, he looked like a crab, waving his 10 arms on his shoulders. Furthermore, each of his fists was covered in flames. The raging flames surrounded Elder Gu, and he looked extremely shocking. The guards who were standing beside him immediately took a few steps back. Wow! Impressive, impressive. You're going to perform 1,000-hand. Xiao Chen was about to comment, but before he could finish, he saw Elder Gu waving his fists of flames and rushing toward him. Xiao Chen quickly spread his hands, and the round ball of water instantly turned into a wall of water, blocking in front of him. Ha ha ha, kid, you're quite flexible, but you're still too naive. Elder Gu laughed maniacally. Then, he waved his 10 arms at the same time, passing through the wall of water from different angles. Although the flames on Elder Ge's fists had been extinguished by the wall of water, his momentum did not diminish. He fiercely attacked several vital points on Xiao Chen's body. Huh. Although Xiao Chen had expected that the wall of water would not be able to stop Elder Gu, he did not expect that Elder Ge's fists did not slow down at all after passing through the wall of water. Xiao Chen hurriedly tilted his body, wanting to dodge, but the 10 fists were just too many. He could dodge here, but he couldn't dodge there. In the end, he still took a few solid punches. Fortunately, they didn't hurt any vital parts. He was only beaten until he swayed, unable to stand properly. I didn't know that you had such quick reflexes, kid. Why don't you try this again? Elder Gu retracted his fists and once again gathered 10 balls of flames. This time, he did not move. Instead, he stood on the same spot and waved his arms quickly. With a swoosh, 10 afterimages of flaming fists suddenly appeared in the air. They cut through the air in unison and attacked Xiao Chen like arrows released from a bow. After Xiao Chen was hit, he didn't even have time to steady himself. Seeing that the fiery afterimage fists had already rushed in front of him, he considered that the water wall wouldn't be able to block these fists. He hurriedly opened and closed his hands, quickly building an ice wall in front of him. Chapter 1179. Dong, dong, dong. A series of crisp knocking sounds could be heard. As the ice wall that Xiao Chen had condensed in a moment of desperation was too weak, the 10 residual image fists easily shattered it. The afterimage fists that pierced through the ice wall flew towards Xiao Chen. The flames on the fists were not extinguished. only a few muffled sounds could be heard. Those afterimage fists ruthlessly smashed onto Xiao Chen's body and very quickly set his clothes on fire. Puff! Xiao Chen had nowhere to disperse the force and was instantly sent flying by the fist. Bang! Bang! He crashed into countless tables and chairs and flew a long distance before he was able to disperse the impact of those afterimage fists. He lay on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. His situation was very similar to the one-eyed man's. Not bad, no wonder you dare to challenge me when you're only at the peak of the second-level venerable realm. Elder Gu leisurely walked towards Xiao Chen and praised, to be able to turn the water wall into an ice wall in such a short period of time, such quick thinking and adaptability is already considered good for someone your age. At the very least, you're much better than that little rascal Shi Yuchuan. Xiao Chen did not respond. He only lay quietly on the ground without moving. If it were not for the fact that Elder Gu could still feel Xiao Chen's faint breathing, he would have thought that Xiao Chen had been beaten to death. Xiao Chen. Husband Xiao Chen. Looking at Xiao Chen, who was lying motionless on the ground with no signs of life or death, Qing Menjing, the girls, and Jia Muzhen were burning with anxiety. Their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Just as they were about to rush over to help, they discovered that the guards had already surrounded them without them knowing. They were unable to rush out at all. As for Captain Xiao, he directly stood in front of them. His meaning could not be any clearer. He had already stated that this was a personal grudge between Xiao Chen and Elder Gu. Not only would he not interfere, but he would also not allow anyone else to cause trouble in the middle. On the other hand, Tang Qianling and Yu Dongsheng, who were in the corner, looked relaxed. They almost wanted to high-five each other in celebration, especially Tang Qianling, who was extremely excited. He couldn't wait for Elder Gu to kill Xiao Chen as soon as possible so that he could avenge himself. Alright, although you're talented, it's a pity that you've hurt my nephew. An eye for an eye. Now, you have to pay with your life. Elder Gu slowly raised his hand and stared at Xiao Chen. Remember, in your next life, don't mess with people you shouldn't mess with and lose your life for no reason. Old thing, I know I'm very talented, but it's not right of you to compare me to a piece of trash for no reason. Just as Elder Gu was gathering his energy and preparing to kill Xiao Chen, a voice suddenly rang out. The people around them were stunned. They looked at each other, wondering who was playing a prank on them. Qing Menjing, Tian Souring, and the other women were instantly overjoyed. Others might not be able to tell, but they could clearly hear that voice. It was Xiao Chen's voice. Xiao Chen, who was lying on the ground, moved slightly. He reached out a hand and patted the dust off his body. Then, he propped himself up. He was full of vigor and vigor. It was impossible to tell that he had been seriously injured. You can still. Elder Gu was stunned. Looking at Xiao Chen, who was standing in front of him as if nothing had happened, a look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. Haven't you heard that the same move can't be used against a Saint Seiya twice? Xiao Chen said calmly. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen was rejoicing in his heart. It was a good thing that nascent soul cultivators were able to heal themselves quickly. Otherwise, if he couldn't recover in time and Elder Gu punched him again, he would really have to eat his lunch box. Ha ha ha. What a sharp-tongued young man. Elder Gu quickly gathered his thoughts and looked at Xiao Chen coldly. I'd like to see if a so-called Saint Seiya like you can withstand the baptism of countless flaming fists. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Gu raised his martial chi to the maximum. His 10 arms waved at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye. In a short period of time, he created countless afterimage fists, densely circling around him. A strong and suffocating pressure spread out. It was obvious that Elder Gu wanted to use this attack to kill Xiao Chen. The temperature in the restaurant continued to rise with the increase of the afterimage fist. Many of the weaker cultivators had already begun to sweat profusely. Some of them were even circulating their mental cultivation methods to quietly resist the pressure, deeply afraid that they would be innocently affected by Elder Ge's martial skill. Old thing, let me give you a word of advice. You're already so old. Don't get too excited. This is a bad habit. Once you get too excited, you'll suffer from a heart attack. While everyone was shocked, Xiao Chen's expression was still very calm. He shook his head and said, "A sick person can't see their surroundings clearly. It seems that I'll have to wake you up." Suddenly, a bluish-purple flame appeared in Xiao Chen's left hand. The tip of the flame trembled slightly, as if he was pouring all his primordial qi into it. "TSK, such a trick, I've already." Elder Gu was about to say something when Xiao Chen suddenly waved his hand and threw the flame into the air. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the bluish-purple flame. After it rose into the air, it instantly exploded into countless bluish-purple flames. These flames all formed a cylindrical wall of flame, tightly protecting Xiao Chen in the middle. His face could not be seen clearly. What? Elder Gu was stunned. He had already prepared himself for this. Because Shi Yuchuan had been seriously injured by the fire, he knew that Xiao Chen must have a fire attribute martial arts skill. When Xiao Chen suddenly ignited the flame, Elder Gu thought that he was fighting with his life on the line. He did not expect him to be able to split so many flames at once, and control them so perfectly. The most important thing was that the color of the flame was very strange. Unlike ordinary flames, it was not crimson. Instead, it was bluish-purple. It gave Elder Gu a sense of extreme danger. What? What is this thing? That's right, what did you say just now? You want me to go through the baptism of countless punches? Xiao Chen stood in the flames. His eyes were illuminated by the flames, making him look very abstruse. I did a rough count. You only have over 100 fist afterimage. Even if you round it up, it's not countless. This. Elder Gu was a little speechless. The muscles on his face trembled slightly. Could it be that he had really misjudged this time? This guy was really hiding his strength? By the way, I have 1,875 flames here. That's 10 times more than you have. Even so, it's still far from countless. Xiao Chen said calmly. Although you're old, you should still be more cautious. There's no point in boasting. Chapter 1180. Elder Gu looked at the relaxed man in front of him and felt a deep sense of fear in his heart. He suddenly remembered something. Didn't I beat him until he was on the verge of death? Why does he look like he's not injured at all? I'm done explaining. Little Nethery, you can send this old thing to hell. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and waved his hand. The flames of the underworld around him trembled and let out a whistling sound as they flew towards Elder Gu at the same time. As it flew, the flames of the underworld gradually condensed and became smaller and smaller. The whole fireball became bigger and bigger. By the time it reached Elder Gu, it had already become a super big fireball. Save! Before Elder Gu could finish his sentence, the huge fireball swallowed him and the 100 or so afterimage fists surrounding him. In an instant, all of them were burned to ashes. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. The restaurant was completely silent. Everyone was shocked to the point their jaws almost hit the floor, and they were unable to say anything. A gust of cold wind blew out of nowhere. Other than Jia Muzhen, Qing Menjing, and the other women, everyone else felt a slight chill, and a sense of fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. They did not expect this unknown young man, who they had never seen before, to be able to kill a perfected martial highness so easily with his cultivation base at the peak of the second-layer martial highness realm. This man was too heaven-defying. Was he a demon? Yu Dongsheng and Tang Qianling broke out in a cold sweat. If not for the fact that everyone was standing still, they would have crawled under the table and silently prayed that Xiao Chen couldn't see them. At this moment, the two of them had a common understanding. Although the Tang clan and the Yu clan were already the top clans in the internal martial arts world, if they really fought with Xiao Chen, they wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. They might even suffer a great loss. The two of them looked at each other tacitly. It seemed like they had to find help to deal with Xiao Chen. The guards, who were originally aggressive, were a little frightened when they saw Xiao Chen's valiance. For a moment, they were at a loss. They put down their weapons and looked at Captain Xiao, waiting for his instructions. Sigh, I didn't expect to meet so many idiots when I came to this restaurant for a simple meal. Xiao Qin shrugged helplessly and walked toward the door of the restaurant. As he walked, he said, "Let's go back to the inn. I've lost my appetite because of this group of people." Xiao Qin even gave Jia Muzhen, Qing Menjing, and the other women a look, signaling them to follow closely behind him. It seemed like he was preparing to run away. He had to run. Although he had released a majestic move, Xiao Chen's primordial qi was instantly drained after he released it. Now, he was no different from an ordinary person. Even a low-level cultivator could easily kill him with a poke, much less these guards at the supremacy realm. "Brat, you've killed someone, and you still want to leave?" Unfortunately, before Xiao Qin could even reach the door, Captain Xiao reacted first. He took a few quick steps forward and blocked Xiao Chen's way. He shouted with a gloomy expression. "What? If I don't leave, do you think I'll wait for you to treat me to a meal?" Xiao Chen did not rush out. Instead, he calmly stopped and said, "Captain Xiao, remember that I asked you before we started the fight? At that time, you clearly said that this is a personal grudge between me and that old thing. You don't intend to intervene. Could it be that you're going back on your word now?" Captain Zhao's expression froze. He gritted his teeth and continued to block Xiao Chen's way, not moving. Naturally, Xiao Chen understood the reason behind this. Although Elder Gu was very disdainful of Captain Xiao and even insulted him, the two of them were obviously very close. Otherwise, Captain Xiao would not have been so shocked when he first heard Shi Yuchuan's name. He would not have used Shi Yuchuan's phone to lure Elder Gu to this restaurant. "I did say that," Captain Xiao took a deep breath and said word by word, "but you should also remember that when Elder Gu attacked that one-eyed man just now, I also warned him not to kill him. Now that Elder Gu has been killed by you for no reason and this happened in my territory, I have to give a reasonable explanation to the higher-ups after all." Xiao Chen smiled coldly and moved his body slightly. Captain Xiao immediately waved his hand and ordered the guards to surround them as if he was facing a formidable enemy. "I've told you the cause of the matter. I hope you can come with me to the Union Association to make a record." Captain Xiao stared at Xiao Chen and said in a low voice. "Husband Xiao Chen, don't listen to this person's nonsense. Sister Souring thinks that they will definitely create a hide-and-seek incident for you or some sudden death incident. Don't go, it's easy to guess such a thing." Tian Souring pulled Xiao Chen warily. She still felt that Captain Xiao wanted to take Xiao Chen away on purpose and then find a time when no one was paying attention to secretly get rid of Xiao Chen. "Don't worry, what hasn't your husband Xiao Chen seen before? Those people in the secular world are much more cunning than those in the martial arts world, but I still managed to fool them. What can a security captain of a small dock do to me?" Xiao Chen said with a smile. However, although Xiao Chen was teasing, his body involuntarily became alert. This was also to prevent Captain Xiao from suddenly attacking him. However, now that there was not a single drop of primordial qi left in his body, he could only try his best to adjust his breathing. "Are you from the secular world?" Captain Xiao asked doubtfully. Xiao Chen spread out his hands and did not answer. He was indeed from the secular world, but he had first entered the Jia family as a foreign minister. However, there was no need for him to say these things to Captain Xiao. Captain Zhao's face darkened. After a while, he seemed to have suppressed his anger and said coldly, "The venerable realm has always only been entered by the sects and clans of the inner martial world. The rogue cultivators of the secular world are not qualified to enter. Hurry up and get lost, or don't blame me for being rude." Captain Xiao also wanted to kill Xiao Chen. He could also hear that Xiao Chen was mocking his identity. How could he not be angry? However, he knew that this was not the time to worry about this. Even an expert like Elder Gu, who was at the perfected honorable realm, could not last more than a few moves against Xiao Chen. He was only at the peak of the 5th stage of the honorable realm. Xiao Chen could probably kill him easily with a flick of his finger. Originally, Captain Xiao wanted to follow the rules of the Alliance Association and take Xiao Chen to the association before taking action. However, from the conversation between Tian Souring and Xiao Chen, it was obvious that Xiao Chen would not give in obediently. Chapter 1181. If Xiao Chen refused to go, then he would have to use force. Xiao Chen and the others would definitely put up a desperate fight. By then, there would be unnecessary casualties. If this matter got out of hand and was reported to the president of the Union Association, then he would be in the wrong from the beginning. If the investigation was carried out, he might even lose his position as the team leader. Thinking of this, Captain Xiao chose another path. He felt that since Xiao Chen and the others were disbanded cultivators from the secular world, he might as well chase them away. As for Elder Ge's death, he would blame it on Xiao Chen. If the Six Directions faction decided to make things difficult for him, he would ask them to go to the secular world and cause trouble for Xiao Chen. The same goes for the rest of you. Before Xiao Chen could say anything, Captain Xiao pointed at Jia Muzhen, Qing Menjing, and the other girls and shouted, "The Honorable Mysterious Realm is for high-level cultivators from the internal martial world. Only those who have paid a sufficient amount of spiritual jade are qualified to participate. Although I don't know how you trash cultivators from the secular world managed to sneak in, it's not important now. Get lost." Qing Menjing, Tian Wangsuo, and the other girls were very unhappy. Just as they were about to speak, Jia Muzhen suddenly blocked their way. "Hee, since the Union Association does not welcome us to participate, then we will take our leave." Jia Muzhen laughed coldly. "Oh, by the way, pass a message to your president. The Jia family of the internal martial world will never interfere in the Honorable Mysterious Realm again. As for all the resources of the Honorable Mysterious Realm Union Association and the Union Association, I will take care of them when I get back. Goodbye." Originally, Jia Muzhen was already very displeased that Xiao Chen had been chased out for no reason. He did not expect that he would be implicated as well. After he finished speaking, Jia Muzhen did not stop and immediately walked towards the restaurant's entrance. "Hey! Wait a minute." Captain Xiao was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. At first, he thought that this four-eyed guy looked ordinary and was probably Xiao Chen's follower. He definitely didn't have any power backing him, so he should be from the secular world. After all this time, he was actually from the Jia clan? He could not afford to offend the Jia clan. The Jia family had provided all the spiritual jades used to activate the formation of the Honor Mystic Realm in the past. The operation of the formation consumed an extremely large amount of spiritual qi. Just the 100 pieces of spiritual jade that everyone had to pay was far from enough. If they wanted to activate the formation, they would need the Jia clan to provide another large amount of spiritual jade. Otherwise, it would be impossible to maintain the normal operation of the formation. Therefore, the Jia family had a lot of say in the Venerable Mystic Realm Alliance. They were the god of wealth that everyone had to worship. The key point was that the Jia family had always been led by Jia Yubian in the past. This Captain Xiao was very familiar with Jia Yubian, but he didn't recognize the new young patriarch, Jia Muzhen. As a result, he was dumbfounded. Previously, Captain Xiao had only been concerned that he could not offend Elder Gu. He did not expect that he would offend the Jia clan, a giant that he could not afford to offend. At this moment, he was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. Young hero, please hold on." After calling out to Jia Muzhen, Captain Xiao was already at a loss for words. At this moment, a quick-witted team member suddenly came over and whispered a few words into his ear. Captain Xiao's eyes immediately lit up. He looked at Jia Muzhen with a smile and said, "Young hero, since you claim to be a member of the Jia clan, can I trouble you to show me the family token to prove your identity?" This time, it was Jia Muzhen's turn to be stunned. He opened his mouth but did not know how to answer. His expression was a little hesitant. Tian Sour did not notice that Jia Muzhen's expression was strange. He gently pushed Jia Muzhen and continued to encourage him enthusiastically, "That's right, Four Eyes. Since this security captain is so curious, why don't you satisfy his wish? Show him the family token and give him a good slap in the face. Sister Sour Sour has long disliked him. Xiaochen could tell at a glance that Jia Muzhen did not move. He probably did not bring the family token with him and had probably left it in the inn. After all, they had already registered outside before entering the pier. They had also confirmed their identities as members of the Jia clan. Now that they were out shopping and eating, wouldn't it be superfluous to bring the family token with them? I left the family token in the inn. Jia Muzhen finally said helplessly, why don't you go back with me to take a look? I am the third-generation disciple of the Jia clan, Jia Muzhen. When I parked the car just now, I had already registered. Without waiting for Jia Muzhen to finish, Captain Xiao impatiently waved his hand and interrupted what he was about to say. All right, don't say such useless things. If you can't show me the family token, how can you prove that you are a member of the Jia clan? You even said that I would follow you back. How would I know that you people would not take the opportunity to escape? Captain Xiao said coldly. What are you talking about? Why would we run away? Sister Sour Sour has roamed the Jianghu for so many years and has never done something as tasteless as running away. Tian Sour Sour protested confidently, completely forgetting that she had escaped from the Tang clan. I'm not too sure about that. Captain Xiao glanced at Xiao Chen and said disdainfully, after all, the cultivators in the secular world have inferior characters. Who can say for sure? You guys should go back with me first. When the time comes, there will be a chance to verify your identities. What are you saying? Who are you saying has inferior characters? What did the secular world do to you? Explain yourself. Cheng Menjing was immediately unhappy. How could there be a regional bias? Xiao Chen patted Cheng Menjing's shoulder gently to comfort her. Then, he stared at Captain Xiao and said lazily, I say, as a security captain, you are quite good at putting on airs. It seems that I have to use my ultimate move. Ultimate move? Don't tell me his token has gone to you again. I'll wait and see. Captain Xiao did not believe him at all and sneered. Xiao Chen cleared his throat and shouted at a table in the corner, Yo, young master you, young master Tang, are you guys eating? Have you finished? Have you guys had enough of watching the show? Why don't you get over here and explain yourself? Are you waiting for me to invite you over? When he walked into the restaurant's lobby, Xiao Chen had used his divine sense to detect that Yu Dongsheng and Tang Qianling were hiding in a corner eating and whispering to each other. Tang Qianling had even glared at him a few times. Yu Dongsheng had probably seen through his act of tricking him into buying the guidebook. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with them. After all, he was only here to eat. As long as these two fools did not provoke him, he would go his own way. However, the situation was different now. Since Jia Muzhen did not bring his family's token, he could only invite these two good-for-nothings to come over and clarify things. This would save him a lot of trouble. Chapter 1182. Hey, what are you shouting for? What do you mean by less sugar, less salt, less vinegar? Are you trying to find someone to fool me again? Captain Xiao reprimanded with some dissatisfaction. But just as he finished speaking, he saw two young people stand up from the corner and slowly walk towards him. At first glance, they seemed a little familiar. Hey, isn't this Xiao Chen and Master Jia? Hee, I didn't think it would be such a coincidence to meet you here. Sigh, it's all my fault. I was so focused on eating that I didn't recognize the two nobles. I'm ashamed. Yu Dongsheng's face was stiff as he forced a laugh. He walked to Xiao Chen's side and, enthusiastically, cupped his hands at him and Jia Muzhen. Xiao Chen, Jia Muzhen, you guys are here to eat too. Tang Qianling had an expression as if his father had died. He didn't even bother to pretend and dawdled as he greeted them. Although the two of them were extremely unwilling, since their identities had already been exposed by Xiao Chen, they could only help him explain. Otherwise, with Xiao Chen's posture just now, they would be dead with just 2 small fireballs. Looking at the 2 of them greeting each other politely, Captain Zhao's heart sank to the bottom. At this time, he had already recognized Yu Dongsheng and Tang Qianling. He also thought of their identities. These 2 people were the legitimate successors of the Yu clan and Tang clan. Since they both knew Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen, then, did I really blame them wrongly? Don't play the game of calling me brothers. Xiao Chen waved his hand impatiently and said with slight sarcasm, "Do you really think I don't know? You guys should feel happy when you saw me getting beaten up just now, right? How could that be? Just now, just now." Yu Dongsheng still wanted to say a few words to smooth things over. Unfortunately, he couldn't say anything for a long time. Don't think of a reason. I'm tired just looking at it. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitched. He pointed at Captain Xiao and said, "Hurry up and tell that stupid security captain. I think he's still asleep." He actually dared to doubt the identity of the Jia clan's current young clan lord. He doesn't even have the slightest bit of insight. I really don't know how he became the team leader. Hee, Xiao Chen, don't be too resentful. After all, Captain Xiao is busy with work. He sees hundreds of people every day, if not thousands. It's normal to see 1 or 2 people wrongly. Let's talk it out. Yu Dongsheng gritted his teeth and put on a fake smile. Yu Dongsheng was very dissatisfied with Xiao Chen's arrogant character. However, he could only suppress his anger and speak up for him. After all, he wasn't Xiao Chen's opponent. Although he really wanted to lie through his teeth, his life was more important. Tang Qianling could only smile along. He turned to Captain Xiao and said, "That Captain Xiao, this Jia Muzhen. Young master is indeed the Jia clan's young clan lord. And that Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen is also his good friend. Young master, you and I can vouch for them." This, that. Captain Xiao opened his mouth and was speechless for a long time. In his heart, he hated these 2 rich playboys to death. You 2 playboys obviously know the identity of Jia Muzhen and Xiao Chen. Why didn't you come out and tell me earlier? You even had people urge me to come out. Now I can't get out of this embarrassing situation. What should I do? Ahem, I say, young master you, young master Tang, that security captain obviously doesn't believe your words. He is so dedicated to his duty. You should also quickly take out your family's token. Otherwise, you will be brought back for interrogation like us. Xiao Chen continued to be unrelenting. No, no. Captain Xiao forced a smile that was uglier than crying. I have met young Master Yu and young Master Tang before. Therefore, it is impossible for me to be mistaken. Since they can personally testify to your and young Master Jia's identity, then it must be true. I believe you guys. Really? Then do we still need to confirm our identities? We are all cultivators from the secular world. Our characters are relatively inferior. Perhaps we followed Jia Muzhen in. Aren't you going to kick us out? Cheng Menjing looked at Captain Xiao with a smile. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. She used her gaze to stab daggers into his body. Xiao Chen inwardly laughed. Eldest Miss hasn't flipped out in a long time. This Captain Xiao is really the type to get scolded for no reason. There is no need. Captain Zhao's face turned green. He fiercely glared at the team member who had suggested to him. It was all this guy's idea. Why did they have to check our identities? This time they had stirred up trouble. Since our identities have been verified, then why are you still here? Why don't you hurry up and continue patrolling the docks? Continue your promising job as a security captain. Who knows, there might be cultivators from the secular world sneaking in from other places. Xiao Chen expressionlessly said. Captain Zhao's body trembled. He didn't know what to say. He could only submissively cup his hands. Suppressing the dissatisfaction and resentment in his heart, he dejectedly left the restaurant with his group of subordinates. After waiting for the guards to leave, Xiao Chen stretched his back and rubbed his stomach. Suddenly, he remembered that he hadn't eaten yet. He called for the waiter. Bringing Tian Suruan and the rest to their original seats, Xiao Chen ordered all the expensive dishes. He then pointed at Yu Dongsheng and Tang Qianling, who were tiptoeing out of the door. He said to the waiter, "This meal is on those two young masters. Don't let them run away. Remember to let them settle the bill first." "All right, I understand." The waiter was afraid of Xiao Chen's power and didn't dare to ask any more questions. He nodded his head and directly took the bill to Yu Dongsheng and Tang Qianling's side. "Two young masters, the dishes on this table, including the ones you didn't pay for earlier, cost a total of 102 spiritual jades. I'll help you round up the bill for a total of 100 spiritual jades. Please pay." This. Yu Dongsheng's face fell. Just now, he and Tang Qianling were in a hurry to escape and forgot to pay the bill. Now, it was all together. What? Young master, you doesn't have the money to pay? That Tang Qianling beside you seems to be quite rich. In the afternoon, he spent 250 spiritual jades to buy a booklet. He probably has more spiritual jades than he can spend. You can ask him to borrow some. Xiao Chen said with a smile. I have money, I have money. Although Yu Dongsheng was furious, he didn't dare to go against Xiao Chen's wishes. He also couldn't ask Tang Qianling for money. He could only reluctantly count out 100 spiritual jades and hand it over to the waiter. "Xiao Chen, aren't you going a little too far?" Tang Qianling was once again poked at his scars. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at Xiao Chen's nose and angrily scolded, "We have helped you so much. Not only do you not want to repay us, you want us to fork out spiritual jades to treat you to a meal? You're simply too arrogant." Chapter 1183. Beat you guys up? Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and said with a look of sudden realization, "Oh, that's true. You helped me. Now that you're requesting me to beat you up, I definitely won't refuse. It's a small matter." Tang Qianling had yet to react when he saw Xiao Chen roll up his sleeves and stride towards him. After this period of recuperation, the essence in Xiao Chen's body had recovered quite a bit. He rushed over and kicked Tang Qianling to the ground. Then, he punched his face. "Aya. Xiao Chen, you bastard. Aya, it hurts." Things happened suddenly. Tang Qianling did not have time to defend at all. He could only passively take the beating, crying out continuously for a moment. He originally wanted to scold Xiao Chen a few more words. But before he could brew up, his face suffered dozens of punches. Although they were all ordinary punches and kicks that did not contain essence, it was still extremely painful. He could not say anything. Yu Dongsheng, who had just finished verifying the spirit jades with the attendant, was immediately stunned when he saw this scene. What was the situation here? How did Tang Qianling offend him again? But Yu Dongsheng quickly recovered. No matter what the situation was, he could not watch Tang Qianling get beaten up by the side. "Stop fighting, stop fighting. Xiao Chen, what are you doing? Why did you start fighting all of a sudden?" Yu Dongsheng hurriedly persuaded. But he did not go up to stop the fight. Instead, he stood a little further away. "Oh, didn't this surnamed Tang request me to beat you guys up? I've already fulfilled his wish." Unsatisfied, he punched Tang Qianling a few more times. Only then did Xiao Chen slowly stand up. He clenched his fists and slowly walked over to Yu Dongsheng. Looking at the deathly pale Yu Dongsheng, Xiao Chen smiled warmly and asked, "All right, it's your turn next. Feel free to say how you want to be beaten up by me. No matter what strange fighting method, I'll satisfy your request." Misunderstanding. Yu Dongsheng was so scared that he quickly hid to the side. He carefully helped Tang Qianling, who had been beaten like a pig, and retreated to the door. He squeezed out a stiff smile and said to Xiao Chen, "Hero Xiao, I don't think you need to repay me. This is just a small matter. We have such a good relationship, so why do you treat me like an outsider? I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Yu Dongxing didn't wait for Xiao Chen's response. He immediately helped Tang Qianling turn around and quickly slipped away. In a hurry, when he stepped out of the hotel's door, his foot slipped and he even tumbled. Tang Qianling also fell flat on his face. However, Yu Dongxing quickly stood up again. He dragged Tang Qianling and scrambled back to where they lived. Looking at the two sorry figures, Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows disdainfully. He was too lazy to chase after them. He turned around and called Jia Muzhen, Qing Menjing, and the others to sit down. Finally, they began to eat quietly. After helping Tang Qianling back to the inn, Yu Dongxing examined his injuries. Fortunately, they were only superficial wounds. For a cultivator, they were basically harmless and would quickly recover. Yu Dongxing first applied some external ointment to Tang Qianling, then helped him lie down. He sat down and recalled what happened today. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. This meal was too unlucky. Not only did he testify for Jia Muzhen and the others, he also spent a lot of spiritual jades to treat them to a meal. Not only did this Xiao Chen not remember his kindness, he even wanted to beat him up because of Tang Qianling's words. Wasn't he being a little too unreasonable? Xiao Chen, this guy, just because he had some ability, he bullied the Yu clan and the Tang clan. What AF * king despicable thing. Yu Dongxing suddenly stood up and paced back and forth. He gritted his teeth as he picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Xiao Yu? Didn't I tell you not to call me if there's nothing important? After the call was connected, a gloomy voice came through. It was obvious that the voice was somewhat dissatisfied. Elder son, I know you're busy. If there's nothing important, I wouldn't dare to disturb you. However, Tang Qianling was injured by Xiao Chen just now. Moreover, that guy killed a martial supremacy in front of many people. Yu Dongxing said with a serious expression. What? Xiao Chen? What's going on? How did you get involved with him? Didn't I warn you not to have a direct confrontation with him? Elder son frowned and asked in a slightly reproachful tone. We didn't provoke him on purpose. It's like this. Just now, Tang Qianling and I were eating in a restaurant, and then Yu Dongxing explained what happened in detail. Idiot. The people of the Six Directions faction are a bunch of stupid pigs. Elder son could not help but curse after listening to the whole story. He wasn't surprised that Xiao Chen was able to kill a venerable perfection stage expert. If it wasn't for his sect leader, Situ Qitian's quick reflexes, he would probably have fallen into Xiao Chen's trap as well. Elder Gu must have been careless and was tricked by Xiao Chen. After thinking carefully for a while, Elder Sun said in a deep voice, How about this? I can't explain it clearly over the phone. Later, after I'm done with the trivial matters of the sect, we'll find a place to meet and discuss about this guy. Elder son, what do you plan to do? Yu Dongxing's heart skipped a beat as he asked tentatively. This time, we'll discuss a foolproof plan. We must find a way to get rid of Xiao Chen. Leaving this uncertain factor alive is too great a threat to our future plans. Elder son's tone revealed a hint of ruthlessness. All right, Elder Sunday. Then I'll wait for your news. Yu Dongxing quickly nodded and agreed. After hanging up the phone, Yu Dongxing secretly heaved a sigh of relief and clenched his fists. Now, as long as the head of the inner martial world, awakening sect, was willing to make a move, that Xiao Chen would not be able to live for long. Xiao Chen, I'll let you be smug for a few more days. Yu Dongxing, have such self-restraint. What harm is there in tolerating you for a few more days? When that time comes, I'll see how you die. At this time, Xiao Chen, who Yu Dongxing had been talking about, had just finished his dinner and was strolling back to the inn with Jia Muzhen and the others. In order not to affect Xiao Chen, Qing Menjing, and the other girls' dual cultivation, Jia Muzhen and Xing Menjing got separate rooms to stay in, leaving the largest room for Xiao Chen and the others. Xing Menjing had just returned to her room and hadn't even had the time to tidy up when she suddenly received a call from Elder Sunday. Elder Sun first followed his usual routine and quickly asked a bunch of strange questions. After Xing Menjing finished answering them one by one, he was finally able to confirm her identity. "Oh, you've been following Xiao Chen for a long time. Have you completed the task that the sect master gave you?" Elder Sun then got to the point and questioned, "Have you found out anything about Xiao Chen's martial techniques?" Chapter 1184. I found out a part of it. Xing girl thought for a while and decided to answer according to what Xiao Chen had taught her before. "I heard that he has a special skill called Saint Seiya. It seems like he can clear his mind and not accept anything fake. From cosmetic surgery to hypnotic illusions, they all have no effect on him." "Really?" Elder Sun asked doubtfully. "Is there such a powerful martial skill? Why haven't I heard of it before?" "There is. Today, he had a conflict with the Six Directions faction in the restaurant. I think he used this martial skill. After that, Elder Gu could only stare at him helplessly. No matter what you say, you can't fool him. He used this to defeat Elder Gu." Elder Sun furrowed his brows. "Why does this seem to be different from what you Dongxing described?" "Of course not, he also used another kind of martial skill." Little Miss Xing vividly said, "I heard that this martial skill is called the Phoenix Illusory Demon Fist." "What the hell is Phoenix? How can there be a martial skill with such a long name?" Elder Sun was stunned when he heard this. What the hell was this? "There is. Xiao Chen relied on this Phoenix Illusory Demon Fist to kill Elder Gu, who was originally especially awesome and powerful." Miss Xing vowed solemnly, the scene at that time was extremely spectacular. The entire restaurant was densely packed with the fireballs that Xiao Chen released. Then, with a whoosh, he killed Elder Gu. That guy didn't even have a speck of dust left. Elder Sun was dumbfounded. He felt that little Miss Xing's description of Xiao Chen was too miraculous. He didn't seem like a human anymore. Instead, he seemed like a god. "Elder Sun? Elder Sun." Little Miss Xing exaggerated the scene in the restaurant several times. After hearing that there was no response from the other end of the phone, she tentatively shouted a few times. "Elder Sun, are you still there? Have I completed my mission? Can I return to the sect now?" Oh, cough cough, not yet." Elder Sun finally regained his senses. He pretended to cough twice and said, "Your investigation of Xiao Chen's martial skills is not thorough enough. You have to continue following him and obtain more accurate information." "So it's like that." Xing girl curled her lips. "I knew you would say that. Anyway, I don't want to go back to that foul open heaven gate." Elder Sun suddenly thought of something and instructed in a low voice, "Yes, right. Don't run around randomly after you enter the Exalt secret realm. At that time, there will be an important mission for you to complete." "Okay, what's the specific content of the mission?" Little Miss Xing casually asked. "I can't tell you for now. Someone will contact you when the time comes and tell you what to do." Elder Sun's tone was a little serious. After all, Elder Sun had lived for a long time and was very experienced. At this moment, he had already recovered from the shock of Xiao Chen's martial skills. He felt that little Miss Xing's words were a little inaccurate and was a little dissatisfied with her. But little Miss Xing acutely sensed the change in Elder Sun's emotions. However, under the influence of a strong sense of curiosity, she really wanted to know what the mission was. "What? Are you going to disobey my orders?" Elder Sun was already a little displeased. No. I just want to know about the mission earlier so that I can make some preparations in case it's too late." Little Miss Xing was afraid of arousing Elder Sun's suspicions and swallowed her words. "If Elder Sun feels that it's not appropriate, I will definitely listen to you." "That's good. There's no need to prepare in advance. When the time comes, you will naturally know what you have to do. Elder son nodded his head in satisfaction and said slowly, before entering the Exalt's secret realm, continue to investigate the situation of Xiao Chen's martial skills. Alright, that's all for now. After hanging up the phone, little Miss Xing originally wanted to immediately go over and tell Xiao Chen about the situation. However, when she reached the door, she turned around and walked back. It was already late at night. Little Miss Xing suddenly thought that Xiao Chen might be cultivating with a few women. It wasn't convenient for her to barge in, so she walked back halfway. She dispelled this thought. In any case, she had been spending most of her time with Xiao Chen, so there would be plenty of opportunities to talk about it. Just as the preparations for the Exalt's secret realm were in full swing, the Immortal Cultivation faction and the Ghost Cultivation faction weren't idle either. They each sent out a large number of people to search for women with spiritual qi in the mortal world, the outer martial world, and even the inner martial world. However, although their goals were the same, the methods used by the two factions were poles apart. The Immortal Cultivation faction was relatively more civilized. If they found a suitable candidate, they would usually invite them to the inner martial world Song clan as a guest. Then, they would try to persuade them with emotion and reason, hoping that they would agree. Some people felt that the Immortal Cultivation faction was generous and had an optimistic attitude towards the uncertainties of the sacrificial ceremony, so they gladly accepted. However, for the sake of their own lives, most of them chose to refuse. The Immortal Cultivation faction didn't force them and instead sent them away. As for the Ghost Cultivation faction, they were much more barbaric. They would cast a net to catch people. As long as they found a suitable candidate, they wouldn't care if the other party was willing or not. In short, they would capture them and detain them. Then, they would threaten and bribe them, using all kinds of methods to force the other party to submit. Therefore, the Ghost Cultivation faction was a bit more effective than the Immortal Cultivation faction. In the mortal world Songning City, Hongzhu was resting in Li Xianer's home. After a rough calculation, Hongzhu realized that he had already been in the mortal world for more than a week. In this week, he had practically run through the entire Songning City. However, apart from Lu Shuangshuang, he hadn't met anyone else suitable. Hongzhu couldn't help but wonder, was his luck really that bad? Did he really have to go to the sacrificial ceremony himself? Sister Hongzhu, that Lu Shuangshuang hasn't contacted us since we last met. She didn't even go to the Warriors Guild to sell her binoculars. Could there be a problem? Li Xianer was cooking in the kitchen when she suddenly thought of Lu Shuangshuang. It can't be, right? I think she might not want to participate in the sacrificial ceremony, but she's too embarrassed to say it out loud. So, she simply hasn't contacted us. Hongzhu leaned on the sofa, curled his lips, and said helplessly, actually, this is very normal. Put yourself in her shoes and think about it. If it was me, I also wouldn't be willing to use my own life as the price in exchange for illusory benefits. This transaction is obviously not worth it. But in my opinion, Lu Shuangshuang doesn't seem like the kind of person who starts strong but ends weak. If she doesn't agree. Li Xianer shook her head and said as she walked out of the kitchen with a plate of stir-fried vegetables. Chapter 1185. Ring ring ring. Before Li Xianer could finish speaking, Hongzhu's cell phone on the table suddenly rang. Putting down the plate, Li Xianer looked down at the phone and said with a smile, "See, I told you she would call. Big sister Hongzhu, pick up and listen." Hongzhu was stunned for a moment. He casually took the phone and found that it was Lu Shuangshuang's name displayed on the screen. He was delighted and quickly pressed the answer button. He put the phone to his ear, and before Hongzhu could speak, a weak female voice came from the other end of the line. Excuse me, are you Lu Shuangshuang's friend, Miss Hong?" "Hongzhu?" "That's right, I'm Hongzhu. May I ask who you are?" Hongzhu was a little puzzled. This didn't seem to be Lu Shuangshuang's voice. What happened? Was Lu Shuangshuang sick? "Hi. Hello, I'm Lu Shuangshuang's best friend, Lin. Kerlin held the phone and bit her lower lip as she said timidly, I'm looking for you to ask about Shuang's whereabouts. May I ask, have you seen her recently? Recently? The last time I saw her was about a week ago. What happened? Did something happen to her? Hongzhu asked anxiously. He felt that something was wrong the more he listened. She hasn't been home for 5 or 6 days, and she didn't take her phone with her. Kerlin gathered her courage and described in detail. Her grandmother thought that she was playing at my house, so she didn't pay much attention. It wasn't until I came to look for her today that I realized she was missing. I took the liberty of calling you because I left your business card on the table. How could this be? Where are you now? I'll rush over to find you immediately. We'll talk about the details when we meet. Hongzhu suddenly stood up. He couldn't care less about eating and ran out with the phone in one hand and Li Xianer in the other. On the other end of the phone, Kerlin's cautious voice came through. I live in Shantytown XX in the west of the city. Before Kerlin could finish speaking, Hongzhu had already flagged down a taxi. After telling the driver the address, she said to Kerlin on the phone, I'm already in the car. Don't leave yet. If there's anything, wait for me. After that, Hongzhu hung up the phone, took out 100 yuan from his wallet, and handed it to the driver, telling him to get to Shantytown as soon as possible. The driver was also puzzled. These two girls didn't look like poor people from the way they dressed. Why would he go to a poor place like Shantytown? Could it be to experience life? However, seeing how generous Hongzhu was, the driver did not intend to ask any more questions. After receiving the money, he stepped on the accelerator and sped toward the shanty town. Not long after, the taxi stopped near the slums. Hongzhu and Li Xianer had never been here before, so they had no choice but to follow the house numbers one by one. But what astonished Hongzhu was that the closer she got to Lu Shuang's house, the more she had a strong feeling that there was actually a woman with weak spiritual energy hiding nearby. Excuse me. Are you Miss Hongzhu? Just as Hongzhu was concentrating on the house number, a beautiful, gentle, and weak little girl came over and greeted Hongzhu softly. I am. You're Lin Kuer, right? Hongzhu turned his head, carefully glanced at Lin Kuer, and said in an indifferent voice. At this time, she had discovered that the weak spiritual energy she had felt before was emitted from Kerlin. Yes, Miss Hongzhu, is this your friend? Kerlin nodded obediently and glanced at Li Xianer standing next to her. Yes, her name is Li Xianer, and she's my good, best friend. You don't have to be so polite. Just call me Hongzhu. Xian and I are ordinary people, not the daughters of some big family. Hongzhu replied with a smile. I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it, please don't misunderstand. Only then did Kerlin realize that miss was actually a very ambiguous word. Her face immediately turned red and she regretted being too rash. This big sister in front of her had a hot body and enchanting eyes. Would she mind this? It's all right, it's not something important. Hongzhu casually waved her hand. She could see that Kerlin's eyes were very clear and she was probably still inexperienced. Although she had called her miss, it was probably just out of courtesy. She didn't mind it that much. Kerlin let out a light sigh of relief. She rubbed the corner of her clothes and said apologetically, I'm sorry. I lost the house number to Shuang's house. I was worried that you might not be able to find this place, so I specially came out to get you, the two of you. The house number here is a little hard to find. Hongzhu sized up Kerlin a few more times, feeling a little surprised. However, she didn't expose her. Instead, she calmly said, let's talk about Lu Shuang. Before she disappeared, did she contact anyone? I looked through her phone just now. Because her last call was to you, I took the liberty to call you to ask. Kerlin lowered her head and took out Lu Shuang's phone. She handed it over and pointed at the call log. She called me? Hongzhu took the phone with an astonished look on his face and muttered, "She didn't call me before. What's going on?" Hongzhu, who was full of doubts, looked through the call log on Lu Shuangshuang's phone. Aside from a call from Kerlin, Lu Shuangshuang had also called him a few days ago. Looking at the date of the call, it should be the night after he met her. This is too strange. I clearly didn't receive Lu Shuangshuang's call that day, so why is my number on the call log? Hongzhu frowned and took out his phone to check again. Sure enough, Lu Shuangshuang's call log from that day didn't show up. He definitely didn't miss it. Sister Hongzhu, could it be that at that time, Lu Shuangshuang had already made up her mind on that matter and wanted to give you a call, but something urgent cropped up at the last minute, so she hung up before the call could go through? That's why there's this record? Li Xianer thought for a while and analyzed softly. That's the only possibility. Hongzhu thought for a while, then turned to Kerlin and asked, "Who does Lu Shuangshuang usually live with?" "Shuangshuang usually lives with her grandmother. She's very filial and takes good care of her grandmother." Kerlin was a little nervous and stuttered. Then who was the last person to see her? Did that person notice anything out of the ordinary? Hongzhu continued to ask. Chapter 1186. Actually, I don't know much about her circle. She rarely talks about her personal affairs. Kerlin shook her head. She suddenly thought of something and continued, but when I asked Grandma, she mentioned that on the night Shuangshuang disappeared, she vaguely heard a girl calling her name outside the house. Girl? Who was it? Did you see her face? What kind of person is she? Hongzhu immediately grasped the key point. Unfortunately, Kerlin shook her head and said with a guilty expression, "I didn't see it. Grandma thought it was me, so she didn't pay much attention. She's old, and she can't see people clearly." Kerlin was now very upset. Although she was Lu Shuangshuang's best friend, she had to help set up the stall at home besides going to school every day. She rarely had the chance to see Lu Shuangshuang. No matter how he thought about it, other than knowing that Shuangshuang was selling binoculars at the Warrior Guild, he knew nothing else. He felt that he was not qualified to be her best friend. Could it be that Lu Shuangshuang was kidnapped? I saw a Weibo post a while ago, saying that some people use the cries of children and women to commit crimes at night when the sky is dark. They've already succeeded in a few cases. What a scum. Li Xian stomped her feet angrily and muttered to herself. She had finally found a girl with spiritual energy, but she didn't expect such an accident to happen. Li Xian wanted to shout at the sky to vent the frustration in her heart. Ah! Kidnap! Kidnap! Kerlin pursed her lips and almost cried. She said with a terrified expression, Then what should we do? Should we call the police?" Kerlin couldn't understand. What was the point of kidnapping Lu Shuangshuang? She had no money or power like herself. Could it be that the other party was a rapist? So scary, so scary. Shuangshuang would be fine, right? Don't worry. Calling the police won't solve the problem now. Lu Shuangshuang might have just gone to another friend's house. How about this, you go back first. Xian and I are quite capable. We'll definitely find her. Hongzhu hurriedly comforted Kerlin. While comforting her, Hongzhu couldn't help but roll his eyes at Li Xianer. This girl's mouth was too chatty. Why did she have to mention kidnapping? Look at how scared this little girl is. All right then. With a pale face, Kerlin looked at Hongzhu hopefully and said, "If you find Shuangshuang, can you please give me a call? I'm worried that something will happen to her." Kerlin also understood that there were some things that the police might not be able to handle. After all, Lu Shuangshuang had been missing for so many days. She was afraid that the golden time for rescue had long passed. Now, she could only hope that these two sisters in front of her with strong auras could find Shuangshuang. Good, then tell me your mobile number. When I find her, I'll inform you immediately. Hongju nodded and took out his mobile phone, preparing to record Kerlin's number. But I don't have a mobile phone. Kerlin stammered for a long time with a pitiful expression on her face. With her family's financial situation, how could she afford a mobile phone? Then take Lu Shuangshuang's mobile phone with you. Remember to charge it at all times and keep it connected. I can call you. Maybe she'll also call. Hongju was startled for a moment, then he handed Lu Shuangshuang's mobile phone over. Looking at Kerlin's thin figure in plain clothes, Hongju couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It seemed that Kerlin's family situation was very ordinary. Nowadays, which girl of her age didn't have a smartphone? No wonder she could only live in this dirty and dilapidated shantytown. Oh. If there's nothing else, I'll go home first. I'll leave Shuangshuang in your hands. Kerlin took the mobile phone and carefully put it away. Then, she turned around and left with her head lowered. No one knew what she was thinking, but she almost bumped into a telephone pole on the side of the road. Looking at Kerlin's dazed back, Hongju gave Li Xianer a look. Then, he used his movement technique and quietly followed Kerlin until he saw her enter a low bungalow. After ascertaining the location of her house, he stopped not far away. After being glared at by Hongju just now, Li Xianer didn't dare to speak carelessly along the way and obediently followed them. Seeing that Hongju had no intention of leaving, she asked in a low voice, "Big sis Hongju, why did you come back with Kerlin? Shouldn't we go find Lu Shuangshuang first?" "Naturally, I have my reasons." Hongju stared at the low and messy bungalow and explained in a low voice, "This Kerlin is also a suitable candidate. Moreover, she was born with a mysterious Yin constitution, which can increase the success rate of the sacrificial ceremony. However, I don't know why, but the spiritual energy in her body is being suppressed by a powerful murderous aura. She can't use it, so I wanted to come and take a look." When he met Kerlin before, Hongju had already noticed this problem, but he had kept it to himself. Looking at Kerlin's appearance, she probably didn't know what was wrong with her constitution. Originally, when Hongju was chatting with Kerlin, he wanted to tell her the ins and outs of the matter and convince her to participate in the sacrificial ceremony. However, considering Lu Shuangshuang's sudden disappearance, Hongju was worried that this might affect Lin Kuer's judgment. Furthermore, this little lass looked weak and timid, and was rather cautious. She probably wouldn't easily trust someone she had just met for the first time. So, after thinking about it, Hongju decided to temporarily give up on this idea. He decided to observe for a while and also find Lu Shuangshuang's whereabouts. It can't be, right? Such a coincidence. Li Xian was a little surprised and asked, "But what did you mean by her murderous aura just now?" To put it simply, she's a big jinx. No matter who comes into contact with her, they'll be out of luck for a while." Hongju shook his head and said, "Unless that person has a strong ability to resist the murderous aura, or as the saying goes, a tough life, they won't be affected by the murderous aura." In fact, Hongju wasn't very clear about the specifics of the murderous aura. He had only vaguely seen a black aura shrouding the space between Kerlin's eyebrows, so he was able to deduce it from the knowledge he already had. Is that true? I think we also came into contact with her just now. Will we be out of luck as well?" Li Xian's shoulders suddenly slumped as if she was deflated. She sighed helplessly and said, "However, it seems that we're already starting to run out of luck, otherwise, Lu Shuangshuang wouldn't have mysteriously disappeared. That's not because of her. When I said that I came into contact with her, I meant the more intimate kind. If it was just ordinary communication, she wouldn't have been." Before Hongju could finish speaking, he suddenly felt the phone in his pocket vibrate a few times. He quickly took it out and looked at it. A strange expression instantly appeared on his face. "You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."